So here the key point is when you are dealing with this. Now this comes through a server-side technologies. That means we will use JSP or PHP or .NET or Python or Node.js, any server-side technologies. Through the server-side technologies, actually we create the APIs. That means through server-side technologies, we create the APIs, generally web services and web APIs. This web service or API provides that data, converts the data into a JSON format. This converts the data into a JSON format. This JSON formatted data must be used on client side. Then client side, generally we use HTML and jQuery, or we use Angular or like React like technologies. By using those technologies, we consume this data and present the data. That means we create an UI. So that is the reason these client-side technologies So by using Ajax, so that means Angular or React or jQuery, everything internally uses Ajax. They internally uses Ajax. Through Ajax, they manage the request. Through Ajax, they manage the request. They process that request. They process the request and handle the request. Through Ajax, they are going to manage and process and handle the request technically. So Angular also uses Ajax, React also uses Ajax. So even general JavaScript also uses Ajax. JavaScript also uses Ajax. That means directly JavaScript also uses, but in real world we don't use much JavaScript. In real world development process, we don't use much JavaScript actually. So why we don't use much JavaScript? Because technically, so lot of references are required, especially for handling. So that is the reason we don't use this regularly. Generally, what we do is we use an XML HTTP request object. This XML HTTP request object is used. XML HTTP request. That is the reason important. When you are practicing Ajax, this object is actually blocked by browsers. That is the reason observed important is many times when you are practicing these kind of examples, especially when you are practicing the data like examples, what happens is, so here, products.json. When you are practicing these examples, suppose I open this example in a browser, any browser like Chrome browser. In the Chrome browser, we are opening this example. In this example, I click on show data, request started, and something went wrong, and it says some 0 error. That means request completed. File name is correctly mentioned, products.json. So, but it is unable to process that request because Ajax request can work only on server. So if you directly try to run, currently our page is not running on server. See, it is using a file system. That means we are using C drive. In the file system, we are configuring it and we are using it. So it uses a file system. So when you observe here, that means go to the console. You can see in the console, you will find the error. And the error, you can see that it says that XML HTTP request is blocked. It is blocked and it shows the message cross origin, CORS, CORS. That means browsers usually have an ability to block the request, and very important is only server will allow to access this request. There are certain messages here. XML HTTP request have certain messages. Generally, what is the message status actually? Generally, message status. So it gets you zero. That means request not initialized. Request not initialized. So one indicates that it is loading. Two indicates that it is loaded. Three indicates that it is interactive. And four indicates that it is complete. So these messages are internally used by your JavaScript actually. JavaScript uses these messages internally. So, and jQuery also uses them, but it provides more convenient way for handling the request. So that is the reason generally when you are using jQuery, the XHR object, XML HTTP request object, which it will get the codes, and based on that it will send the status code. Directly JavaScript also can use this request. JavaScript also can use this request and manage the request. JavaScript uses directly that XML HTTP request object. Through that XML HTTP request object, it can make a request, it can fetch the data, and it can return the data. So, but in real world development process, you will not see much people using with this